All right, so by shifting the angle of that gradation to about 45 degrees, or I can shift it a little bit more or less, maybe 35 degrees, maybe 55. Oh, and I got a stroke on there. I have to get rid of that. You'll see that it gives the illusion of a soft edge. I can select it all and use the large selection tool to kind of nudge it into place. And it gives the illusion of lighting and a soft edge. But vectors don't really do soft edges very well. They're not meant for that. So the only way you can hint at it is through that gradated edge. And you can layer them up, layer different graded edges up on top of each other to give you the effect you want. And you can even play with the opacity at all edges. So I can take this and it's 100% opacity to 0% opacity, but I can shift that 100% to more like 80%, and then I can add something along the way and deepen that opacity just a little bit. So first it goes from 80 to 40, and then very quickly it fades off to 0% from 40. But I think I like that angle better. And it's always an experimentation. I kind of liked how it looked over the top, so I might make a duplicate of all of this, copy it, new layer to keep it organized just for yourself, paste in place. And with that other layer, I might shift it going another way. So kind of tie everything together. So I have the drop shadow. I move the drop shadow underneath everything, and then I have this top kind of gradation that's giving it a slightly different edge, slightly different shape. And that's why I think of the coloring of the logo as just effects. That is variations on your original. All right, so let's say that that's my color version. I want to lock all of those so they can't change. That's my black and white version. That's my black and white. These give you instant variations. That's my black and white with the drop shadow overlay, which would be a nice grayscale version of the same logo, right, without much difficulty. Though it would take some refinement still, because I don't like how the mouth isn't there. So then, of course, in your effects, as long as you're careful to isolate them, you can still make little corrections. Huh. Pencil tool is not liking me. And because each of them is separate, you don't need to move them all as one. You can move them individually as well. You know, make that drop shadow more subtle, or make it more pronounced. So where Illustrator has the advantage on Photoshop is in its precision. And everything it does is a vector and is thus infinitely scalable. Okay. So now I have all these different elements that I can play with. I'm going to save it. And I first save it as the AI file. That's my working format. And then I'm going to save it as a file type that I can move over into Photoshop for printing, and that is what's called an EPS file. So AI files and EPS files are the two type of vector file formats we need to know. I'm going to save that EPS of the color logo to the desktop. I'm going to keep all the default settings. And now I can close Illustrator. I have my color logo, my black and white logo, and my sketches. Here's my black and white EPS. And here's my sketch that I'm basing all of this on. And remember, it all started with researching existing logos, and brainstorming different solutions, to settle on this. Okay, so now, how do I make this printable? Well, just like I did with the black and white, when I added color here, this is my black and white logo as a PSD. This was my color test. Now I want to take that black and white logo, PSD, and I want to drag in the color EPS, place it on top. You want them to match, so I need to do everything I did to the black one to my color one. So shrink it down a little bit, place it. I can take down the opacity of the color one just to line it up with my black one perfectly, using the move tool. And you'll feel a little schizophrenic working between these two all the time, because they are different in little ways, yet they feel very familiar. I'm still always hitting Command T in Illustrator, even though it does text tools, which I don't want. All right, now I can turn off the black underneath, turn up the color to 100%, and now I have both versions. I have just a background of white, and I'm going to save this as my print-ready TIFF. So PR, Assignment 6 color logo, as a TIFF. With LZW compression. You want it to be better than what you were able to do with just layer effects in Photoshop. But of course, there's nothing keeping you from doing more layer effects in Photoshop if you want to finish it off. Because it's a different process, right? So if I open it with Photoshop, and I remember the layer effects I liked, and I thought that they might be useful. For instance, try bevel and emboss on it. Try a texture on it. Play with those options. Make it subtle. Enhance it with a drop shadow. Or even a color overlay. There's just a lot you can still do. A satin effect, which is kind of like an interior shadow, and you can give it a color. There's just so much you can do to play with it. in subtle ways. But make sure it's strengthening your overall image. I'm definitely not going to add a stroke because I've done that to much stronger effect in Illustrator and much more precise. I'll just play with these a little bit. Okay, so yeah, I actually like what that does too. So many things we can do. So that's what I was able to do in Illustrator, and then I can add those effects on top of my Illustrator file to really kind of finish it off. My color version. The broken up brush edge from Illustrator with all the refinement of these different tools. And then I save it. And then I'm going to save it as a PNG to upload to the Dropbox. Not the Dropbox, to the PhotoBucket. So the way you do the PNG is it supports transparency because you don't want to have the white showing behind it. So you turn off the background and you say File, Save As, PNG to the desktop. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my black logo. Turn off the background. Your vector layer is still a smart object. You're not going to rasterize it. You just say File, Save As, with the background turned off, a PNG to the desktop. And then I can also save this because I've already sized it to fit on an 8x10 piece of paper at 350 pixels per inch. And the way I like, I can save this as my print ready TIFF. So now I've got everything I need to submit the project. I go to the appropriate folder within PhotoBucket, which will be for assignment 6, but I'm going to put it into my instructor demonstrations. And what you're going to upload for this is something that gives us a sense of the process. So you're just the JPEG of your sketch, cleaned up to be presentable, like you did before you brought it into Illustrator. And you're going to call that your name with the number 1. Next, you're going to bring in your black and white logo, PNG, which is the core identity design. Notice how the background color is different because this is transparent. And that's your name with the number 2. And then lastly, your final color solution, which is kind of experimental in nature. And that's where the logo can be very versatile. It can go different ways. And that's a PNG that is your name with the numeral 3. And that is it. I'll organize it into the right part of the class. This is really combining the shape exercise stuff we did earlier in Photoshop with this program, this dedicated vector program of Illustrator. And on the next assignment, we will combine those skills with some of our compositing skills in Photoshop to make a spot illustration and a logo type and a poster. So there's still lots we can do. And that is it. I'll give you a quick preview of how we use these skills to come. This is all the compositing stuff we've done, past demos.